Right, everybody, I'm going to get started. We're at about 50% of the people who signed up that are showing as attendees right now. So I think that's normally, and we normally end up in the 50 to 60% range with these things. So I think we're about right. Following on from January's Webinar Wednesday, February's Webinar Wednesday is going to be software product we call ZHC-Insight, which assists with solving the problem that we talked about last month, which was that a lot of our clients don't necessarily have the tools that they need to be able to give us feedback when we're talking about ZHC systems. So what ZHC-Insight is it's a software and monitoring tool that goes with any distribution ZHC platform that's out there since we started selling this in about 2018, I think. So about 4 years of clients that are available for these. And what the ZHC-Insight does is allows you to look into each Z-band distribution unit within your facility, see which front panel ports are connected, see the serial number of the balun that's connected on the front panel port, take RF measurements, auto detect whether or not it's a fiber input, whether it's a CATV input. And really what we were attempting to do when we put this system together is to bring the diagnostics and some of the feedback that you get from an IPTV platform into the RF world. For those of you who weren't here in January, once again, I'm Dan Helfrich. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Z-Band Technologies. And so what we're going to do today is we're just going to take like a 25-minute tour of the ZHC-Insight software, show you some of the feedback that you can get through the platform, and then obviously show you some of the user accounts and credentials and some of the granularity and user control, which I think is one of the more powerful parts of the system. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll pop this little window out here, but I should be able to answer anything that you put into this Q&A box on the left-hand side of the screen. Just let me know. So log in, and the first thing you're going to see in this is a complete rewrite. I think a couple of you are on the webinar are probably a little bit familiar with ZHC-Insight from previous projects. We rewrote everything. The initial system was fine. It did what we needed it to do, but there were certain things within the UI and certain things within user permissions that we weren't really thrilled with. So we went back and just kind of, redid everything. It's not the tactic that we want to take with software every time that we roll it out, but this time it just felt like the appropriate thing to do. So when you launch, you're going to get an immediate system health check. And red here is going to tell me, hey, there's something going on. We have units that aren't healthy. So I'll hover over it, and 50% of units are healthy, 50% aren't healthy. So I'll scroll down to the alerts. You can see here that it's telling me that we're running this ping about every 40 minutes, as you can see there on the mathematics of the timestamp. And this one device, 10.1.10.149, is not on the network. So immediately, if I'm the system administrator, I want to take a look at 10.1.10.149 and say, okay, what's going on there? And that's going to give me a little bit of advanced notice as well, because if it's alerting within the system, if I can see it on this desktop here, it's also going to be integrated with the notification side of this, which I'll show you in a little bit, which means somebody got an email, right? As soon as we couldn't ping this device, somebody got an email that said, hey, device X is offline. You want to go check this out. And really the whole concept with it is to allow you to stay ahead of your customers. That way that trouble ticket is coming when you see that this device is offline, not when someone's calling you saying, hey, I don't have TV service, the 4th floor is down. We're just trying to stay ahead of that a little bit. So as soon as we detect in that ping, and you can see that ping is about every 40 minutes, that we have a device that's offline, that is exactly what we're going to be able to do is go back and acknowledge that through the email platform, through the alerting platform, and start doing some investigation. So we go into setup here. I'm going to take a look at the ZHCs. And right now I'm working from home. I think, as you can tell, if you're looking over my shoulder, and I'm VPN'd into the office system. the office, we have a couple of different devices set up. It's showing you the IP addresses of those devices. And then this one here, 10.1.10.149, is the device that's offline. As you can see, red device is not accessible. We have a problem. We're going to go in and look at one through the info tab. And it takes a second to load here. It takes even longer than a second just because I am doing this through VPN, so it's a little on the slower side. But what you can see here is this is a device that has nothing connected on the front panel and is only detecting a CATV input port here on the back side of things. But it's going to give you this color-coded chart for what it does see. So let's go back and find a different one here. Yeah, you're going to get color codes for what the device sees. So if we've got a newer Balun, a ZHC Balun Gen 5, it's going to detect that Balun, and it's also going to detect that serial number so that I know, hey, this is what we've got. If you have a mix and match system where I've got some older legacy equipment, but some newer Z-band equipment, and we see this a lot with some of our legacy customers, where what they'll have are like the Gen 3 Gigabob Baluns that are still out there, still working. And those are backwards compatible or forwards compatible, I guess, depending on how you're looking at it, whether you're looking at it from the Balun or from the ZHC. But there's cross-generational compatibility between these legacy Baluns and the newer ZHC system. We just can't pull the same information from them because there's some firmware differences. So what you'll see when that happens is we'll see, okay, I've got this device that's connected, but this is an older generation Balun. So all I can tell you is that there's definitely a Z-band Balun on the end there. I can't tell you anything else about that Balun. And then you go down, hey, we've got the CATV input port connected. The cool part about this from the back panel standpoint, and I'm just going to click on this so we can actually go into it, is this actually allows you to build a full tree of your video distribution system. So I know this is serial number 70049. I know what location it's in. And then when I'm going through and building everything, I can actually say, okay, great. This one is cascading to 71234, and it is in. We save that. And then from that point in time, as we move forward, I'm going to know when I go back into my ZHC overview where everything is connected, what my outbound connections are, what we're cascading to. And now you can see, boom, it shows me, hey, I've got this connection on the outbound and the serial number of the device that we're connected to. And I did that manually as we're going through here. You can also do this through like a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, where if you have a system topology, basically, and you provide that to us, we'll build this in and import it into the system in advance so that you have access to everything. It is really useful, though, from a troubleshooting standpoint, because so many times the calls that come in from our clients are, hey, the fourth floor is down, and we have a couple of problems on the third floor. Well, if I've got the Insight system and I've got this up and running, well, I know, well, the third floor is being cascaded down from the fourth floor. So if the fourth floor is down, of course, we're also having issues on the third floor. And I can kind of start to figure out where I need to go with my troubleshooting in advance of, jumping into the truck and rolling out to the client site. I can get a little more information in advance. You did see that this didn't go green until I actually made that. This is the only kind of caveat here with the outbound side of things, is on the front panel ports, everything is auto detect, right? We connect something in, you hit this data refresh button, and it's going to go out and grab that new information. If you moved the Balun or whatever, it's going to associate the serial number with a different port. These outbound coax ports are not auto detect. Those amplifiers are always on, they're always running. So that's a manual entry field there. Everything else, cascade in, fiber in, management port, those things are auto detected. The system will tell you whether or not that's populated. These outbound coax ports are not. The other cool part about this is, let's go in here to the front panel, is I can also see which bin my Balun is in when I go into the front panel port. So if I'm having issues in a specific room, I can go into that front panel port and I'm getting this information back, hey, I'm on I'm in bin 1, but then the low voltage contractor tells me that that's a 70-meter run. Well, the balun shouldn't be in bin 1 on a 70-meter run. So we have a problem, right? Maybe we have a problem with the balun, maybe we have a problem with the cable, it's given us too much loss, or there's a variety of different issues that we could be looking into. But we're going to be able to help with those diagnostics because we'll actually get some feedback from the balun. Hey, this is the bin I'm in versus what we know to be the distance of the cable run from when we shot the cable. So we'll actually be able to provide some valuable feedback here, which again is one of the things that we've always struggled with. Those of you that are familiar with the Z-band systems, those of you that are specifically familiar with the Gen 3s and Gen 4, like legacy Z-band systems, or really anything up to this point, there's no feedback, which is problematic in troubleshooting, right? You put it in and they're great systems, they work, they're very reliable, but when there are problems, you're kind of reliant on running around with a meter and hoping that we can get the right measurements. And if you don't have a meter, then potentially we're troubleshooting blind, which is exactly what we covered last month when we were talking through things in January. So if we're still having issues, we're still having bin problems, you can also go in and scan this port. This is going to take just a second. So you can scan the entire RF frequency range, which I believe is what it's doing now. So we'll probably get a graph here in just a second or two. Yeah, so as you can see, it's going to give you a scan of all of your content and what that launch dB level is across the entire spectrum. I have to talk to our RF guys about what that little spike is. Or if you just are having troubles on a particular channel, this is channel 42, because that's the answer to the life, the universe, and everything. We'll scan just channel 42, and you can see it's automatically going to associate that channel with center frequency from the US EIA table for cable television. This is an important point because actually one of the clients that we have that does or did in maybe past tense, but I know utilized this system is there's a difference, and we covered it last week or last month when we were doing the RF webinar. There's a difference between the channel and frequency that you see here on the screen and the actual display channel that's on TV. You know, the display channel that's on a television is governed by a virtual channel, a VCN, versus this is the actual EIA broadcast channel that the RF content is on. So when we scan just this channel, it's going to give us a power level for that. As you can see, 333, that's about right. You know, it's roughly where we're at here. It's 15 dB. So we can scan this particular channel, but just because we scan this channel doesn't mean that that actually matches up with the VCN. And that's one of the things that we've actually been able to diagnose remotely through the Insight system. Is we had a customer call, hey, I don't have any TV on channel 55. We scan channel 55 or RF frequency that associates with channel 55, which would be 411. You know, so that would be the center frequency for channel 55. And there was nothing there. And we're like, okay, well, you don't have a channel 55. And we were actually able to help with the VCN mapping remotely just by getting this information. The same thing applies on the wrong button back end side of things, where with the ZHCs, you can get full overviews of everything. And I can go in and get incoming RF level scans. So I just showed you how to do it on the front panel. If I want to see what's incoming to a ZHC, I can go, okay, I'm going to hit the RF level button. We're going to be scanning the input, and we're going to be scanning on 70049. This might be the one that's offline. No. And as you can see, our RF engineers have done a reasonably good job here of giving us a flat input to the system. This is exactly what we're looking for. We want to see a flat input all the way across. And if I want to look at a different unit, I can just change that and hit scan, and it will make those adjustments as well. So it's a pretty nice platform from that side of things. And I can go in and kind of take a look at each individual unit and take a look at the input and make sure that we're seeing exactly what it is that we want to see from an input side of things. Or I can go scan an individual port as well, whether it's an outbound port, whether it's any of my front panel ports, whether it's my coax outs. You can scan everything here from kind of the ZHC RF level side of things. And then same deal with the back panel. If you're only interested in what the back panel is doing, you can jump around between ZHCs just using the little tab up here at the top. So from a feedback standpoint, there's only really one other thing that I wanted to show you. Go down to settings. There it is, polling. You can actually take snapshots of each of the devices within your system, or use the snapshot all button to take a look at everything and just kind of see what it's all doing at that point in time. And the reason that this is a useful feature is we have a project coming up with a healthcare chain in New York where they actually purchased the Insight system. They are going to be using it, going to be implementing it. They have 40-ish ZHCs. I mean, it's a relatively large project for us. And so what we want to do, and the way that we intend to implement the ZHC-Insight system as we're going through everything, is we're going to stand everything up. We're going to do the commissioning. We're going to label everything. We're going to put in all the ZHCs. And then we're going to go through with a system that we know is working, that we know is commissioned, that we know is validated, and take a snapshot of everything. And what that snapshot is going to allow us to do is, okay, at a time where we have a known good commissioned Z-band system, we have, these are the incoming levels everywhere. These are the outgoing levels everywhere. This is what my front panel ports look like. This is what my outbound coaxes look like. This is what the connections are, everything. And we're going to run that snapshot, and we're going to save that snapshot, and that's going to be the baseline for comparisons for this status page when you move forward. Because you see, when we get past these ping errors, the other thing that the system is monitoring here is this change in RF level. So this is going to be adjustable from a tolerance standpoint, where you only want to monitor for changes in RF levels greater than 5 dB or 10 dB or whatever. But the system will actually alert you, hey, when we did the snapshot, when we knew the system was up and running and good, my RF level here was 13 and now it's 4. You may want to take a look at this, and it may be a problem. So not only will there be alerting of like when a device goes offline, but when we commission a system, when we do that snapshot, you will also be able to set that as your baseline for comparison moving forward. And the system will alert you if there are significant variances or deviations from that snapshot, so that we should be able to have the ability to detect common things that can go wrong on a ZHC, like an amplifier failing, one of the mini amplifiers failing, or cable connections coming loose, device being unplugged. We should be able to get advance notice of that, or in an environment where it's something that's going to fail slowly over time, we should be able to get that information and kind of know, hey, we're starting to see pretty regular variances of the RF outputs here on these outbound coax ports. The amps for these outbound coax ports might be on their way out. So that's one of the other useful things here, is once we take that snapshot, you're going to have a baseline to compare against. Excuse me 1 second, let me take a quick drink. Pop this out, see if there have been any questions while we're doing this. No, okay. So that part of it, I mean, that's going to be the core of what I see our users doing when we're talking about using the Insight platform. You're going to be taking a look at connected ports, connected front panels. You're going to be taking a look at incoming and outgoing RF measurements. We're going to be snapshotting the system and kind of building a Z-band system tree. And you will also be able to, see, let's find it here, group your ZHCs. So if you are a healthcare chain that is managing multiple sites, let's say, you can locate this ZHC in your data center, or in your Azure, AWS cloud, whatever. And as long as it has the ability to run that ping test to see if the devices are online, and communicate with the ZHCs to get that feedback, you can group these ZHCs so that I know, okay, well, this unit went down, this unit is in Baptist East or whatever, Baptist West. And then you'll be able to drill down into that topology of just that ZHC group, rather than what you have now, which is kind of like all the ZHCs being shown on the overview. My favorite part, personally, of the ZHC platform, though, moving forward, is actually the user management side of things. So we have put together what is, I think, in my opinion, the most granular user level controls that I've seen in a software platform. So the reason for this is there's a lot of times where we have technicians or people on sites where we want to grant them access to be able to get some information. We want to be able to grant them access to get feedback without necessarily giving them the ability to make any changes, right? And we've kind of taken that concept within ZHC-Insight and expanded that into a like module by module control platform where if I want this user to be able to make changes in the ZHC, I will allow them to be able to make changes just in the ZHC and the ZHC only, or in the alerts and polling and the alerts and polling only. And I can go in and add that. As you can see here, I just did that intentionally. If view is not checked, you can't add any other privileges, right? It's kind of straightforward as a concept, but if you haven't given person the right to view content, they obviously can't add, edit, or delete anything else. So as soon as you take away that view tick box, everything else grays out. Or if you happen to have everything, then no, I don't want that person to have any more privileges. You can go in and do that. So this is, to me, this is one of like my favorite parts of the platform. Is that you can actually go in, and if you want someone to only have access to the ZHCs and absolutely nothing else, then their user can only have access to the ZHCs. If you want them to only be able to manage users, let's say they're an administrator or someone at the executive level, doesn't really have necessarily the technological backbone or understanding for RF TV systems, but the people that report to him do, well, then that person, he or she can, just manage the users and user groups and say, all right, these are the techs that are assigned to this. There you go. And they don't need to be able to go in and do anything else from the ZHC standpoint. So I really love the granularity that we put into this side of things. And I think it's going to be fantastic for our users who have to manage multiple employees and allowing them to give, some granularity to some people, all the control to some people, and then allow some people to do, only just see things. So I think that's really going to be fantastic, fun stuff. Yeah, we're pretty excited about the fact that this is relaunching. We are excited to go down this path. A couple of things that you've seen here that I want to point out just for future use cases is right now you can see serial number, endpoint location, ZHC location tests. The baseline is in this for what will eventually be RS-232 control and IP-based control of televisions and monitors. So some of the things that are in here now, like endpoints and user devices, aren't necessarily going to be day one applicable to our clients, but by the end of Q2 or end of Q3 here, depending on development timelines, we are going to have RS-232 control and hopefully IP control of certain televisions implemented in this system. So then when I'm going into this endpoint tab, you're talking about user devices being Samsung TV, LG TV, that kind of stuff. And then we're actually doing those controls as well and integrating that with the Insight platform. So we're excited for that. That's definitely going to be another webinar when it comes out. I did just want to kind of drop it here as a future use case, is that you will see some stuff within the ZHC UI that's not necessarily applicable today, but this is going to be the base for everything that we're doing going forward. And that's also the reason that some of these modules and portal pages are in here as well, is to allow us to go in and just really easily create new pages or new modules when it's necessary, when the time comes for RS-232 and IP controls. The last thing that I did want to show is that you will also be able to get proof that the system sent emails when you want it. I have no idea if it's anything in the last 10 days. So I'm just kind of taking a look. So the system will go in and tell you, hey, this is the alert that we sent. This was the body of the email. This is who we sent it to. And you'll be able to go into any one of those and actually take a look at the the email message that was sent. But you do get this feedback from that way. If, you know, if there's a question that comes from the client, or if there's anything that's going on with the system, and there are errors or there are issues, we can actually go in and take a look at what was sent and when, and who got that messaging as well. As you can see, everything's gone to Jacques right now, who is doing a lot of the debugging and working on the software platform. He screams at me on a daily basis about the amount of emails he's getting, which is understandable now, seeing as I'm showing 9,535 of them since we implemented the software platform. That's what you get for doing it during the debugging side of things. You can also go in and see who has cleared alerts and when. I don't believe that I've actually cleared any alerts today, which explains why this is null data. But this is going to be useful at the time of installation, because if we do have alerts that get sent out and you can see them in the email log, you'll also be able to go in and see the cleared alert and the alert ID and who cleared and acknowledged that alert. So if you have an issue, who someone happened to come in, oh, you know, 10.1.10.149 is offline, acknowledged, cleared, but then they didn't fix it, we know who to go back to and say, okay, great, you acknowledge this, you cleared this, like, what happened? Why didn't it get resolved? So there is some nice features here on the back end that, because we are showing, hey, this is the email that we sent, hey, this is who cleared this alert. So there's some kind of proof of play almost on the back end side of things. The last thing that I wanted to show is I did say that there was some granularity in the changes that we can make. And that is done right here. So I can adjust my start frequency for the RF scan. I can adjust the middle frequency for the RF scan. I can adjust the high frequency for the RF scan. And we can change the threshold for all of these things and the type of alert that we want it to be. So like an endpoint swap. If we detected a balun on ZHC-70042 port 3, and then we do a snapshot, and then that same balun is on ZHC-70055 port 6, you'll get that alert and say, okay, this happened, but we consider that a low-level event rather than a high-level event. So we just wanted you to know, hey, this balun moved around, you might want to look into that. So this will be a lot of the stuff that we do during commissioning, right? What do we recommend that these thresholds are? What are the things that you find important as an organization, right? Do you want to get a high-level alert if the temperature spikes on one of these things? Do you want to get a high-level alert if the pilot tone shuts off? Do you want to get a high-level alert if we all of a sudden can't read an endpoint anymore, or if a ZHC can't ping? So again, one of the things that we went for with this when we were doing the system design is to have a lot of flexibility with the client and what they considered important, right? Obviously, our engineering team, our sales staff is going to have our opinions on what we consider important when we're looking at these systems, specifically with RF measurements and inputs and that kind of stuff. And we hope that our clients would at least have some respect for our opinion on what we think is important on the RF side of things. But in terms of what they care about, I don't know. Maybe they don't care at all if someone swaps an endpoint. Like maybe it happens all the time, right? You're in a hospital and TV in 412 isn't working, so you run down the hall, hey, there's an empty room, you pull that balun out, you swap them in, everything works, problem solved, and the client doesn't care, right? That's a perfectly normal application for the Z-band system. So we don't want to inundate anybody with these high-level messages or make it seem like this is a big deal if it's kind of their standard operating procedure or their standard troubleshooting procedure. So there's just a ton of flexibility within the system so that they can decide, the client can decide what they find important. And the same thing here with the polling side of things. You can create your own polling schedules. You can update your polling schedules. So if you don't think ping every 40 minutes is necessary, you just want to check them once a day, make sure they're still online, we can absolutely adjust that. Same thing with the snapshot history. If you want to take a weekly snapshot and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and roll through this, that's exactly what you can do. As you can see here, we haven't actually updated our baseline snapshots in about a month since we've been doing a lot of the bug testing. So you can download that snapshot, or you can upload a new one. You can take a new snapshot. All of this stuff can be done really easily through the UI. It's just really straightforward stuff and designed to be very flexible for the client. So we're really happy, honestly, with where this landed in terms of allowing us to take a look at our RF systems and our Z-band systems in a way that we've never been able to before. And as soon as we get the official kind of green light on this one and we're done with the bug fixing side of things, we intend to go out to basically any client that we've sold ZHCs to since 2018 and introduce this to them, because we feel like it's something that'd be very useful for a lot of our clients and gives us an advantage, frankly, in the RF space, in being able to actually get a look into an RF television system in a way that nobody else is doing right now. Not the entire infrastructure, at least, right? There are head-end monitors and meters and some other stuff that are out there that give you a lot of fantastic feedback for what's going on at the head end. There's less that actually allows you to take a look at what's going on throughout your entire infrastructure. And that was really the goal with this, is to take a look at the whole infrastructure of a Z-band platform rather than just, take a look at what's going on in the head end. So we're excited about this one. We think this is going to be good for us. We think this is going to be really good for our clients in terms of allowing them to just take that troubleshooting to a different level. So like I said, in January, we're trying to keep these short, kind of like micro webinars, easily digestible. So I'm at a half hour. I'm going to pause for a minute or two to see if anything comes into the Q&A, which should be on the left-hand side on the toolbar. And if not, I will hopefully see everybody back here next month for a new topic. And the way that we've got these structured, while you may or may not be typing in questions, I'm going to fill the dead air like I'm a radio host. The way that we have these structured is it's going to be a kind of a generic industry knowledge thing. I think, we did RF measurements in January. I think we've got some like 4K encoding or secure reliable transport coming up. So it'll be generic topic and then a Z-band product that builds off that topic, and then generic topic and a Z-band product that builds off that topic. And we've got it structured that way. I think we have the entire year mapped out right now. I'd have to double check that with our marketing manager. So when we come back in March, wow, already March. Yeah, when we come back in March, it's going to be a different topic, generic industry presentation, and I'm pretty sure that one's on like 4K encoding and secure reliable transport, some of that kind of stuff, which will lead into a webinar on 4K encoding and our 4K encoder. So that's the plan. And again, we're going to try and keep these at a half an hour. I haven't seen any questions trickle in, so I will thank everybody for coming. Your account manager will probably follow up with you just to say hello and see if you had any questions or any interest in moving forward with an Insight system. So thank everybody very much. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.